Aloha, everyone. This is Kumukavelao. I'm going to go through our lecture for today. First of all, I wanted to thank you for being so understanding. I got some emails from you with some well wishes for the situation that my family is in right now. And I really, really appreciate that. Mahalo nui. So this morning I'm recording this. I'm going to do so in 10 to 15 minute increments. So there's going to be different parts to this lecture. I'll be going through this lecture. These are the last terms that you're going to need to know for the test that's happening on Tuesday. I will be, at the end of this lecture, I will be talking a little bit more about the test so that you can be prepared for that. Um, but in the meantime, let's just go ahead and go through this lecture. Again, these are the last terms that you're going to need to know, assuming you've been keeping up with all the readings and taking notes. All right, here we go. Okay, we've talked a little bit about this word, mana. Mana is a hard thing to describe. It's an sort of an abstract thing. Um, It can be described as a few different things, such as life force or strength or charisma. And all of those things are definitely encompassed in mana. I think for the sake of our class, you should be thinking about mana as something that can be increased. You would definitely, depending on your genealogy, have been born with a certain amount of rank. I think we've talked about this before. And that is inherent in your genealogy. However, this idea of mana is a way um, to sort of um, I'm not even sure. I think we have a term called ho'omana, and that means to increase your mana. And that can be done in a number of different ways. Um, One way is by doing good deeds. Um, Another way would be to take on, if you were living back in the day during traditional times and you were going to defeat someone in battle, that also would increase your mana. You would be able to obtain some of the mana of the person that you defeated. Okay. Again, life force, and this is in objects that today we consider inanimate as well as animate objects. You can see on this slide that we have two different sides of this yin and yang symbol, right? You've got these things that oftentimes we think of as opposites. Um, I use this symbol to as an example of pono because, again, pono, a lot of times people think it means righteous, but really it means much more than that, especially in the Hawaiian context. Professor Lilikala Kame'ele, was reading, talked about how pono is more like balance, right? You have to have both sides of things in order to have balance. Again, you see male on one side at the top of one list and female on the other. In Hawaiian thinking, you have to have both. In Hawaiian thinking, we all have male traits and female traits, whether you consider your gender male or female. And if you didn't, then you wouldn't have pono. There would be no balance. So it's completely normal for people, all of us, to have male traits that we consider male, and as well as female traits or traits that we consider to be correlated with female. All right, so we're going to use two of our gods to sort of be an example of this pono idea. Okay, we talked about Pele. Pele is fiery. Her personality is fiery. She's oftentimes thought of as being the goddess of destruction and I would like to sort of present an alternative kind of viewpoint. Okay, so if any of you have ever been hiking in an old forest, right? You've been hiking in an old forest. Um, Oftentimes, there's on the ground, you have all this stuff, this sort of biota or leaves that are on the ground. And it's kind of like a big, thick carpet of just this stuff that falls off of trees. Um, and you can walk through the old forest very quietly because of this carpet. But what you don't see in old forests is a lot of new growth. And there are numerous reasons for this. One is, well, it could be that carpet, that thick carpet of biota, right, not allowing there to be access to for new plants to sprout. Also, the fact that in old forests, oftentimes the canopy is tall and is spread out, which means that you don't have a lot of sunlight. And sometimes you don't even have a whole lot of, it provides shelter from rain. So, because of this, you don't have a lot of new growth in old forests. In Hawaiian thinking, what has to happen in order for that to change is for Pele to come through and take out, burn up that old forest. And when she does, right, I think we've probably all seen examples of what a new lava flow looks like. When you look at it, it's hard to even imagine that anything will be growing from that anytime soon. And this is why people correlate Pele with destruction. Okay, so on the flip side of this, you have Pele's sister, Hi'iaka. Actually, Pele has many sisters that are named Hi'iaka, but we're going to talk about Hi'iaka i Kapoleo Pele in particular. If you watch the Merry Monarch Hula Festival, many, many, many of the chants that are done and hula that are done are dedicated to this goddess, Pele's sister. Okay, Hi'iaka is known as, well, I'll just tell you, her kinolau are forest plants. And if um, go on a new lava flow, like I said, it's really hard to imagine that anything will grow again. But really, it doesn't take that long at all before you start to see plants shooting up through the lava. That is Kinolau of Hi'iaka. That's Hi'iaka doing her work. Okay. Hi'iaka is oftentimes looked at as the opposite of her sister, right? Pele symbolizes destruction. Hi'iaka symbolizes lush regrowth. But again, I think we can use them as an example of this idea called pono, because really, Hi'iaka would not have a chance to do what she does if Pele doesn't come through and get rid of Old Forest. And so, in this way, these two sisters really do embody this idea of pono or balance, both of them being needed to create new growth. Not just Hi'iaka, but Pele to come through, cover things over, and allow a new landscape for new regrowth. Okay, now we're going to talk about gods. This word kumupa'a means there are foundational gods. So remember when we said that Kamakau talks about how we have more than 40,000 different gods. These that are on this slide would have been considered our foundational gods that everybody knew about, that everybody prayed to. Okay, so you have Ku on the male side, which is the left side of this slide. Ku, Lono, Kane, and Kanaloa. Ku is the god of warfare. His personality is being very organized, strategic, orderly. Lono is the god of procreation. This is the god of our makahiki time. When it's makahiki season, and that's dedicated to Lono, that's the time when kapu are lifted. We have Kane. Kane is the god of fresh water. Um, and Kanaloa, who is the god of salt water or oceans. On the right hand side, you see two female gods. One is Haumea. Remember the story of Papa and Wakea? Well, another name for Papa is Haumea. Haumea is associated with everything female, like menstruation, like childbirth. All of these things are dedicated to Haumea. And then we have mo'o. So mo'o are really interesting creatures. Okay, some of you who are from Hawaii probably have heard these kinds of mo'o stories before. Basically, they are these creatures. Now, if you listen to what Kamakau says, these creatures have different body forms. Yeah, they're able to shapeshift, and they are either really, really beautiful, irresistible women, or can be a what Kamakau describes as a 5 to 6 foot long um, creature that is like a lizard. Okay, the way that these stories often go is that these mo'o are um, connected to particular places, oftentimes fish ponds or just ponds, and they live in caves that are right near there or in the water itself. And oftentimes the mo'olelo go like this. There's like a male will be there near a pond, see a beautiful female, go up to her, and she will entice him to go back into her cave, and they'll have sex, and then she'll turn into the lizard creature and eat him. Okay, it almost always ends up being a situation where the guy ends up being that particular mo'o's dinner. But mo'o are also known for helping community by doing things like if there's a famine, that the women of a village would go and speak to a mo'o, and the mo'o would go out into the water and into the ocean and herd fish in so that they could gather these fish and salt and preserve them so that they would be able to sustain themselves through the famine. Okay, there are numerous stories like that, even on Oahu in the Ewa Plain area. So again, foundational gods, these are gods that everybody would have known about. Okay, everybody, I mean, like from Ali'i Nui all the way down to Maka'ainana. These gods would have been known by people and would have been celebrated and worshipped by every single strata of the population. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and then I am going to continue with part 2.